This is Huaqiangbei in Shenzhen, known as the world's #1 electronics street. At its peak, over 1 million people would pass through here daily. Now, that bustling crowd is nowhere to be seen.
Huaqiangbei's once busy stalls now stand empty. The walkways feel deserted, with shuttered storefronts lining the streets. The glory days of Huaqiangbei seem long gone. Empty, just empty. This place used to be so crowded that people could barely get in. Now it's like a ghost town. What happened here? Let me take a closer look. These shops are all vacant. Nobody's renting them. Right now, I'm at Zhenhua Digital Mall, part of Huaqiangbei, the largest wholesale market in China. Back then, this place was thriving. Getting a shop here was so competitive that even a 1 million yuan transfer fee couldn't guarantee you a spot. Every shop was occupied, and finding a vacant one was nearly impossible. But now, with China's sluggish economy and rising rent costs, Zhenhua Digital Mall has turned into an empty shell of its former self. It might be on the verge of collapse. Business has become harder and harder recently. Orders are at an all-time low. There are barely any. Even online sales, which were once a lifeline, have dried up. If this isn't the start of a shutdown, then what is it? Let me show you today's earnings. Just 86 yuan. My daily stall rent is 500 yuan, and I've only made 86. How am I supposed to survive? Small businesses in Huaqiangbei are struggling under the weight of rising costs, intense competition, and weakening consumer demand. Huaqiangbei, once a key area in Shenzhen and a global hub for electronics, is now fading into obscurity. Recently, a blogger wrote about the decline of Huaqiangbei. They described visiting the area to repair their phone. Expecting difficulty finding parking as usual, they were surprised to see the lot half empty, even at lunchtime. This parking lot, once notorious for being packed, is now eerily vacant. Walking through Huaqiangbei's pedestrian street, they found it unusually quiet. Once strictly regulated to keep out e-bikes and shared bicycles, the area is now overrun by them. Meanwhile, custodial staff gathered to chat in front of unrented storefronts. On their way back to retrieve the car, they saw that the parking lot still hadn't filled up. It's one of the rare parking lots in Huaqiangbei that offers free parking for the first half hour, yet even that hasn't brought people in. This paints a stark picture of the current economic slowdown. The blogger mentioned a friend who used to run a computer parts business in Huaqiangbei. Unable to make ends meet, they returned to their hometown to start an agricultural livestream business, saying, "Why stress over paying rent when I can live more comfortably selling sweet potatoes?" The decline of Huaqiangbei is emblematic of Shenzhen's economic struggles. The once thriving markets, bustling streets, and crowded shops now feel like relics of a different era. In an article, a blogger described their visit to Huaqiangbei this September. Taking the subway with colleagues, they expected to find the bustling electronics market of years past, but were met with an unexpectedly quiet scene. Many shops were closed, and for rent signs were everywhere. The fourth floor of the old Huaqiang second-hand computer market was eerily quiet, with nearly half of the stalls vacant. The blogger struck up a conversation with a bored shopkeeper scrolling through their phone. The shopkeeper lamented that business this year was significantly worse than in previous years, with many loyal customers no longer coming to buy. Hoping to find some sign of prosperity, they explored other shopping districts nearby, but the cold reality was evident everywhere. Empty office buildings, restaurants with transfer notice taped to their doors, and street vendors with sparse crowds. These scenes silently conveyed the bleak state of Shenzhen's economy. The blogger couldn't help but wonder, is Shenzhen's economy failing? Once the vanguard of China's reform and opening up, a city where countless entrepreneurs began their dreams, Shenzhen now seems to be struggling to navigate this economic winter. It's truly shocking. I came out for dinner tonight and noticed an entire row of street shops sitting empty. Look here, this was once a clothing store. Down the road, there was a convenience store, a restaurant, a shoe store, and even a friendly family cafe. Some of the businesses I don't even remember anymore. And look at this footage from earlier in the afternoon. Shop after shop, they just keep opening, renovating, and then shutting down again. This year has been especially tough for brick-and-mortar stores. Most of the profits go to landlords or renovation costs. Retail stores hardly make any money these days. Just look at this row. I've lost count of how many have gone out of business. The sight of rows upon rows of shuttered shops, some reopening only to close again, illustrates the harsh reality for brick-and-mortar businesses in Shenzhen. High renovation costs and a lack of profitability lead to repeated closures, painting a stark picture of the struggles these stores face.
Look how quiet it is. This is Shenzhen, and it's not even 11:30 at night. There's hardly anyone on the streets. The supermarket is empty and closing, and not a single customer is at the barbecue stands. What's going on? Why is this so deserted?
The empty streets, quiet supermarkets, and vacant barbecue stands reflect the economic downturn in Shenzhen.
What caused the once bustling Dalong Commercial Center to become completely deserted? Dalong was a landmark shopping area in Longhua District. It used to be vibrant, especially on weekends and holidays, packed with crowds. But at some point, it started to grow quieter and quieter. Many shops have now closed. The Dalong Commercial Center, once so lively, is now a ghost town.
The sluggish economy has left many commercial centers eerily quiet, a stark contrast to their former bustling scenes. Look how quiet Shenzhen has become. Just a few years ago, I could make 2,000 to 3,000 yuan in sales every day. Now it's barely a few hundred. Where have all the people gone? Today, I visited Huanan City in Shenzhen's Pinghu area. These shops used to be so successful, but now they're all empty. Has Shenzhen, as a first-tier city, really become this deserted? It's past noon on a regular workday, and not a single person is on this road. We run a Hakka noodle shop here in Shenzhen. Normally, between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m., the lunch rush would bring factory workers flooding in for noodles or rice dishes. But today, there were just a handful of customers. Where has everyone gone? Don't they need to eat anymore? Despite Shenzhen's large population and high consumption potential as a major city, the noodle shops near empty peak hours highlight the extent of the economic slowdown. Analysts point to several key factors driving the downturn in Shenzhen's economy. 1. China's economic slowdown. The overall decline in the economy has caused foreign capital to withdraw from Shenzhen, significantly affecting local jobs, the supply chain, and the economy. 2. High housing costs and living expenses. Skyrocketing home prices and high consumer costs have taken a toll on small businesses, leaving places like Dongmen and Huaqiangbei struggling to maintain foot traffic. 3. Low disposable income. While Shenzhen's wages are relatively high, most people earn between 3,000 and 6,000 yuan per month. With expensive rent and a high cost of living, saving money is nearly impossible. 4. Unaffordable housing. Shenzhen's housing market is prohibitively expensive for most newcomers, forcing them to rent instead of buy. Many feel rootless, as if they're wandering the earth rather than building a home. 5. Opportunities in other regions. With factories now available in central and western provinces offering similar wages of 3,000 to 5,000 yuan, many people prefer working closer to home to care for family members. 6. Family responsibilities. Children's education and elderly care compel many to leave Shenzhen and return to their hometowns. Why is Shenzhen's consumer market so weak? One major reason is the city's rapid development over the past decade. Shenzhen's explosive growth brought soaring housing prices and countless entrepreneurial opportunities, benefiting many. But as China's economic climate shifts, Shenzhen's key industries, technology, manufacturing, and real estate are facing serious challenges, leading to layoffs and salary cuts. Data shows that the average salary growth in Shenzhen slowed significantly in 2023, with some sectors experiencing income declines. This directly impacts people's ability and willingness to spend. Imagine this. As monthly incomes drop, people still face overwhelming financial burdens, high mortgages, children's education costs, and daily expenses. This forces them to cut back on unnecessary spending. The days of carefree shopping sprees have turned into careful budgeting. Even dining out and entertainment have become less frequent as people prioritize cooking at home. Reduced income limits spending freedom, causing a steep decline in consumer demand. Over the past decade, Shenzhen's housing prices have skyrocketed, forcing many ordinary families to shoulder enormous mortgages. This financial strain has turned mortgage payments into the largest portion of household expenses. Monthly payments of tens of thousands of yuan weigh heavily on residents, leaving many feeling trapped. With most income going towards mortgages, there's little left for daily expenses, let alone discretionary spending. As a result, many Shenzhen residents have tightened their belts and reduced unnecessary consumption. Beyond housing costs, Shenzhen's high living expenses are another major deterrent. As a first-tier city, Shenzhen's cost of living has steadily risen, with prices for daily necessities, dining, education, and healthcare climbing every year. Recent inflation has only exacerbated this trend. In 2023, Shenzhen's consumer price index increased by 3.5%, with prices for some basic goods rising by more than 5%. Meanwhile, the average income of ordinary residents has failed to keep up with these increases. Under the pressure of rising living costs, many people have been forced to cut back. Dining out and shopping have become less frequent, and activities like travel and entertainment are now seen as luxuries. The constant rise in prices has placed a heavy burden on consumers, significantly reducing their willingness to spend. The economic slowdown has also driven Shenzhen's unemployment rate to alarming levels. According to the latest data from the Shenzhen Municipal Human Resources and Social Security Bureau, the number of newly registered unemployed in the first quarter of 2024 increased by 40% compared to the same period last year, and 15% compared to the previous quarter. This translates to a net loss of over 40,000 jobs in a city with a workforce of about 12 million. It's worth noting that these figures only account for newly registered unemployed individuals, excluding those already on record. According to the South China Morning Post, official unemployment statistics are incomplete, as many layoffs go unreported or undocumented. The situation in Shenzhen is really bleak. Many large companies are laying off staff, while small companies are barely holding on. Unemployment is widespread, and some businesses can't even pay their employees anymore. This year, vacancy rates in office buildings and retail spaces have soared. I've heard of so many stories of frustration and hardship this year, more than ever before. Companies that seemed stable one day have suddenly dissolved the next. Even small business owners are struggling to break even, with monthly rents often exceeding their profits. What's worse is that many salaried workers are stuck repaying loans, with their earnings barely enough to cover their debts. Those who've lost their jobs often rely on credit cards just to get by. Today, having no debt to your name already puts you ahead of 80% of people. This is the reality of life in Shenzhen right now. I've been unemployed for 24 months. I can't even afford to rent an apartment in Shenzhen anymore. The pressure of living in a big city is overwhelming. A tiny single room costs over 1,000 yuan, and even windowless ones are 700 to 800 yuan. Finding a job is tough. Many places don't care about appearances, but set strict age limits. It's hard for young graduates and experienced workers alike to find work these days. What's happening in Shenzhen now might sound unbelievable. Large companies, government-affiliated units, and certain conglomerates haven't paid full salaries in over 6 months. Layoffs and pay cuts are rampant. Some want to quit their jobs, but fear they won't find another, while staying means a significant drop in their quality of life. For those accustomed to working in state-affiliated institutions, adjusting to private company environments is especially difficult. Even in luxury office buildings, many companies are just empty shells. Meanwhile, Starbucks and Luckin coffee shops are full of professionals with laptops pretending to work while job hunting. The situation is even worse for industries related to real estate, like renovation and furniture companies, many of which are barely staying afloat. The message is clear: save money. The days of carefree spending, like before 2019, are over. Keeping cash on hand is now more important than ever. In summary, Shenzhen was once a symbol of China's economic growth and a dream destination for countless entrepreneurs. However, the city is now experiencing an economic winter, with the decline of Huaqiangbei serving as a stark indicator of this downturn. The future of Shenzhen has become a cause for concern. Huaqiangbei, once renowned as a hub for electronic products and a coveted business district, used to attract over 1 million visitors daily. Parking spots were nearly impossible to come by. Now, many of its shops sit vacant, stalls are shuttered, and the once bustling commercial atmosphere has vanished. This downturn isn't limited to Huaqiangbei. Other shopping districts in Shenzhen are facing similar challenges. Vacant storefronts, sparse foot traffic, and an abundance of for rent signs all paint a sobering picture of cooling consumer activity. Analysts suggest that Shenzhen's struggles are not unique, but reflect a broader trend of economic decline in many once thriving Chinese cities. The situation in Shenzhen signals a concerning trajectory for China's overall economy.